everyone, this is Onyxangel, and today I'm going to discuss with you Battered Women Syndrome. So Battered Women Syndrome, also BWS, is a psychological condition and describes a pattern of behavior that develops in victims of domestic violence as a result of serious long-term abuse. BWS is dangerous primarily because it can lead to what some scholars say is learned helplessness or psychological paralysis, where the victim becomes so depressed, defeated, and passive that she believes she is incapable of leaving her abuser. Now, keep in mind that I'm well aware that guys are also abused as well, and that they may also suffer from, I guess for men it would be battered men syndrome, but generally speaking, most people don't even think about that. It's more like battered women syndrome is what it's called, whether you're male or female. So my apologies for not using a gender neutral term for any of those who might be offended by it. Let's go ahead and continue. Okay, so this gripping fear feels absolutely real to the victim, feeling weak and possibly holding out, hoping that the abuser will stop hurting them. The victim remains in the abusive situation. This continues the cycle of domestic violence and strengthens the grip. BWS has been recognized by many state courts, and there are support systems available to domestic violence and BWS victims. Some states also take BWS into account when addressing violent outbursts by victims of domestic violence. If you or someone you know is afraid of speaking to authorities about an abuser, there may be ways to avoid punishment. So, when I was with my ex-husband, Robert, and he was abusive, which I have videos that discuss that, I was afraid of leaving him because I thought that he would kill me. I was afraid of staying with him because I thought he would kill me. Either way you go, I thought I was dead. It didn't matter which way I went, so you know. But at one time I was arrested for something I did, but he was the mastermind behind, because he threatened me to steal my parents' checks and write on them. He threatened me, and the authorities actually wanted him, not me. They told me all I had to do was give him up, but I was just so afraid to. I really was. I don't even know why, and if I could go back and change it, I really would. So let's talk about how does battered women syndrome develop. BWS begins as an abusive cycle with 3 stages. First, the abuser engages in behaviors that create relationship tension. Second, the tension explodes when the abuser commits some form of abuse, physical, psychological, emotional, sexual, or otherwise. Third, the abuser tries to fix his wrongdoing and apologizes. This third stage is frequently referred to as the honeymoon stage, and involves the abuser making amends for his bad behavior. During the honeymoon stage, the abuser is forgiven. The cycle starts all over again. As the cycle continues, the victim starts to feel that the abuse is her own fault, and when the victim takes responsibility for her own abuse, this develops into learned helplessness. The victim feels helpless because she has convinced herself that the abuse is her own fault, yet she cannot understand why the abuse continues if it's her own fault. She becomes convinced of her helplessness and that the abuse cannot be escaped absent the most drastic measures. Thus is born the psychology of BWS. Now we'll move on to recognizing battered women syndrome. Women suffer from BWS share observable characteristics. Speaking with a battered woman should reveal these characteristics and help to identify her as a sufferer of BWS. The common characteristics of BWS women are as follows. 1. She takes full responsibility over the abuse and finds it difficult or impossible to blame the abuser himself. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Number 2, she fears for her safety. Number 3, she rationally believes the abuser is all-powerful and will hurt her if she contacts the authorities and seeks help. Women suffering from BWS will frequently show signs of a depression too. They may be less enthusiastic about the activities they used to enjoy. They may also start to abuse drugs and alcohol. Once the signs of BWS are recognized, it's important to get help. As with any domestic violence situation, women with BWS should contact local law enforcement authorities and report their abuser. The police will make an arrest and the prosecution will hopefully advance. At this point, many battered women may try to recant their statements. They may feel sorry for their abuser or may fear violence if the police let them go. A large number of battered women recant, but it's important to keep in mind that recanting may subject the battered woman to criminal charges for lying to authorities. It's also worth noting that recanting does not usually affect the case. If the abuser has been arrested and his case moved forward, recanting will do little to prevent this. Battered women may also worry about testifying in court against their abuser. In domestic violence cases, the victim is required to testify in court against her abuser. BWS women are often afraid of their abusers. There are support options, however. In fact, there are people known as victims' aides who will stand in court and provide support for the victim as she testifies. Aside from these legal options, there are also organizations that provide psychological and emotional support to battered women. This may be necessary as the separation process can be extremely difficult and confusing for a battered woman. BWS is now recognized in legislation by many states and is considered when defending battered wives who kill or injure their abusive spouses. For the courts, BWS is an indication of the defendant's state of mind or may be considered a mitigating circumstance. For example, the court may consider that a BWS woman felt that she was justified in attacking her abuser and that she was in reasonable fear of imminent danger due to her condition and her experiences with the attacker. Now, here's something that not very many people do know. My ex-husband, he was diabetic, and he taught me how to save his life if I ever needed to, so I knew how to give him his shots. I also knew what would happen in the event that I didn't give him his shots, or what would happen if he got too much of insulin. And so, as such, because I also watched him overdose himself and try, so that was his technique with me. That was what kept, he would actually try to overdose himself, so I would save him because I knew how to. And so, as such, I honestly cannot tell you how many times I actually sat there and thought that I could use latex gloves and grab a needle that he had already used, that he had already touched, and inject just a little more insulin in him. But you know what? I'm not a murderer. And as many times as I thought about that, I always thought that I always feared going to jail. I know now that I likely wouldn't have. That I would have probably gotten off on battered woman syndrome. But it's still no excuse. In the end, I'm not his only wife he lost. I believe he had like one other before me and then 2 after me that he also lost. And that's punishment enough knowing that he will die alone because he can't keep someone. And I'm the type of person where I actually always hope for the best, and I hope that he does find someone, and I hope that he does change his ways eventually. But I will never give him that chance, ever again. But if you or someone you know is a victim of domestic violence and possible sufferer of BWS, please contact your local authorities and local support organizations. There are many avenues available for these women to receive help. If you're suffering from battered woman syndrome, you can get protected with an attorney's help. Domestic violence of any kind can leave deep emotional scars in addition to the physical ones. After getting the medical and emotional support you need, you should contact an experienced family law attorney to explore your legal options, including restraining orders and child custody modifications. An attorney can not only help to protect you and your loved ones, but can also help you get your life back in order. So please, if you are in a situation where you are abused or feel that you may be suffering from battered woman syndrome, seek the help of a therapist, a psychiatrist, and your local authorities. They can help you, and there's tons of support groups. I will post the domestic violence hotline for the United States in the description below. If you are in another country, then let me know, and I will do what I can to find that number for you if you need help for either yourself or a friend. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and if there's anything else that you'd like me to expand on, you know, whether it's my personal experiences or anything specific, let me know, and I will be happy to. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you like this video, please feel free to hit like, subscribe, and share. And thank you guys so much for watching.